Jody, we know that it's been 1 year since the October 7 attack. What is the mood like in Israel?
So the solemn day in Israel, it's been 1 year since Hamas's massacre when they killed more than 1,200 people, raped, tortured and burned people alive and took more than 250 hostages. Memorial ceremonies are taking place in communities across the country. 22 communities are invaded by Hamas, and there are private ceremonies taking place in some, such as Kibbutz Be'eri and Kfar Aza. There are also ceremonies in places like Sderot and at the site of the WION Peace Festival, where hundreds of young people were killed. And there's an event for bereaved families this evening as well. Now, this morning started with people singing the national anthem, linking arms in a sign of unity, and groups have been visiting Hostages Square throughout the morning. Events are also going on in communities across the world. Remember, citizens of 43 countries were killed or kidnapped by Hamas. And we know that President Biden is participating in a candle lighting ceremony, and Vice President Harris is participating in a tree planting ceremony. So lots of things happening to mark this anniversary.
All right, Jody, thanks for bringing the latest. Of course, we're also to discuss more. We have with us Dr. Einat Wilf, who is an Israeli citizen spokesperson, a former member of Knesset, and is also the co-author of The War of Return. Now, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I understand that Israel is trying to defend itself from any threat it feels from its neighbors, with one more hostage killed. The families of remaining hostages still held in Gaza are hoping for their loved ones to come back home. And at the same time, people in Gaza are hoping for the humanitarian crisis to stop so that they can return home. Can these people still hope for a ceasefire?
A ceasefire is not the right way to end this. This has to end with the ideology that has created the war to end. Because Hamas is not some alien organization that arrived in the Gaza Strip. Hamas is the most brutal executor of the Palestinian ideology, which is shared by almost all Palestinians, which opposes the existence of a sovereign state for the Jewish people in any part of the land. So this ideology has to die. This is why we've been at war for a century, because the Arabs of the land have decided to use their considerable abilities and all the resources that the world has thrown at them in order to initially try to prevent, and when they failed, to undo the very existence of a sovereign Jewish state. So that ideology has to go. The people of Gaza have to stand up and say, we want to live next to a Jewish state rather than from the river to the sea. We are not refugees to the fifth generation. We possess no imaginary right of return. We want to live next to a Jewish state in peace and prosperity. That's when we can have peace. Ceasefires have been useless. They've only enabled our neighbors to build their capabilities to massacre us on our borders. So this has to end with the death of the ideology that brought about all these massacres.
Right. Now, but we just need to inform now, these are the live visuals that we are getting from Tel Aviv. These are, again, the hostages that are hoping that 1 year after the war, we can at least get a ceasefire, or maybe a sort of an assurance that, yes, we are going to get our family back alive. Now, do you think it has become difficult for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at this point in time to justify his stance in the war, while the people in Israel are still looking for him for a solution?
Personally, I think he's been too weak in order to get the hostages, because once you understand that the ideology of Hamas, the ideology of no Jewish state, the ideology that has led to kidnapping people in their bed, is the ideology of almost every person in Gaza, you can understand that in order to get the hostages, we need to fight a war like a war needs to be fought. We agreed to surrender to the lie that Hamas is some alien force that does not represent the Palestinians. Imagine that the United States would have declared in December 1941 war on the kamikazes, saying that it has no problem with the racial supremacist imperial ideology of Japan. It's just going to war with the kamikazes. That would have been stupid. So in the same way, Israel should have declared that it is at war with the ideology of Palestinianism and that it will not rest until this ideology is defeated. And because we agreed to pretend that Hamas has nothing to do with the ideology of Palestinianism, we did things that are unprecedented and unparalleled in any war, such as supplying our enemy at a time of war when they are still at war with us, attacking us, and holding our people hostages, civilians. So we need to start fighting wars like wars need to be fought and make it clear to the Palestinians that from our end, certainly Egypt is more than welcome to supply them, but we are not providing supplies to an enemy that is holding our hostages. They release the hostages. We can discuss surrender and the beginning of true peace negotiations. But ceasefire is not how we're going to get back the hostages.
All right. Oh, that being said, French president has decided to stop the shipments of arms to Israel used in the war in Gaza, saying that it should be stopped as part of a broader effort to find a political solution to the conflict. What do you feel about this? And with this being said, now since France has stopped it, how long do you think U.S. will be able to support Israel as well?
Oh, he immediately announced a day later that he's bringing it back. So I think he just lost on all counts. I must say I'm very surprised by people trying to please everybody and then pleasing nobody. Make it very clear. And with this, I agree with President Macron. This war ends with a proper peace agreement. We have no territorial dispute with the people of Gaza. We have no territorial dispute with the people of Lebanon. It is time for there to be a proper peace agreement, not all kinds of useless ceasefires, worse than useless UN peacekeeping forces, more UN resolutions that no one ever implements until Israel actually begins to implement them by force. We need a clear vision that says full acceptance of Israel as the Jewish state and full peace with it, nothing in the middle.
Right. Dr. Einat Wilf, thank you so much for joining us on the show and giving your opinions.